Hi guys, Rik Marston, SynthgodXXX. Welcome to my channel. I've got an awesome topic today to talk about synthesizers, second-hand purchases, and the ones to avoid, unless you really like to pay for repairs. I've got a list of synthesizers here that I think you should know about if you are searching for a used synthesizer. There are going to be some brands here that may be repeated a few times, and this is not a knock on those brands at all or their manufacturing skills. It's just after a certain amount of time, I believe certain keyboards' longevity is... I've always had a synth in my collection, or something that I've had that doesn't work, or had a part or something like that that was starting to fail. It's just one of those things which you start purchasing, and then if you're a collector or if you're just a studio person, a person who collects, you'll have to really check everything out before you buy it. If you are a person like me, though, that goes on eBay a lot, you're in the hope-pray kind of situation, that these things are exactly like they're described. And then when you get it, you're like, really? 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 You said this was in excellent condition, or this was working perfect, or is working great? Well, here's a perfect example of this. A synthesizer everyone knows and loves, and is one of the most common secondhand nightmares and or freakouts, is when they buy a used Roland Juno 106. You know, those guys and girls who are selling them online are like, it's been in the closet 30 years, it's just a little dusty, I powered it on, all keys and functions are fine, it's a little crackly on the outputs, but it's great. That crackly on the outputs means that your voices need to be replaced. Okay, that's like one of the biggest things. So when you go and you're going on eBay and you see a Juno 106 for $1,600 and I haven't used it in this amount of time and stuff and it works great, a little static on the outputs. No, dude, your voices need to be replaced. Synth Spa. Alan Kopic is one of the best recommended services for it, and I have that, as you'll probably see the links below, for Synth Spa for repairs. And he doesn't only do just Juno 106s, but he also does a whole line of vintage gear. So if you have something old, take a look at the Synth Spa page, or send him a message, and I'm sure that Alan will get back to you quick and will be able to get you hooked up, because I've had 4 or 5 secondhand Juno 106s that I've purchased that I legitimately bought it knowing that they were going to be repair jobs, and then sending it to him, or just the board itself, the motherboard with the voice, with the voice board itself, just sending the voice board to him, having repaired, and then you putting it back into your Juno is phenomenal. So I mean, those are wonderful things. So check out eBay, check out Synth Spa. Alan does a wonderful job doing repairs of vintage gear. So if you do have a Juno 106 and it's got the crackly outputs, you know something's wrong. That Juno needs to get its voices repaired. And while you're at it, get the upgrade, get the cool color LEDs, the new color bender, and get that power transformer replaced, and the transformer, I'm sorry, the prongs, the 2-prong to 3-prong conversion. That's really cool. The perfect example of a scary situation is you buy a vintage synthesizer and it's acting very funny when it powers up. I had my Jupiter 8 with the Encore MIDI kit installed, and it had nothing to do with the Encore upgrade or anything like that, but just the fact that it's an older synth, that maybe it had some components inside that were changed out. You're talking about taking a piece out while the other pieces are still old in the board. Sometimes that could freak the internal technology out. So I would power it on, it would act quirky for the first 10 minutes, and after that it was like the most incredibly phenomenal synth I've ever played in my life. So you'll have that scare. There's certain vintage synths that are going to be like that might have a quirk, that when they power up for the first 5 to 7 minutes they act funny or sound weird and perform strange. Then all of a sudden, once they get all warmed up and everything is fine. It's very strange. So do try to get as much details from the actual seller about its performance, its behavior. Don't say how many scratches and stuff. That's wonderful on how its aesthetics are, but if you're looking at a vintage piece of kit, make sure you go, okay, so is there weird behaviors? Does it power up funny? Does it do things? Ask these things, especially if it's over $2,000. Nowadays the Juno 60s are starting to take off in such humongous prices. It's now becoming close to the Jupiter 6s, which are now in the 3,000s. So $2,100 for a really good condition Juno 60, to me, is just like, oh my God, I can't believe that's so expensive. But it's worth it nowadays, because these synths are now starting to get drier and drier. All right, on with the topic. Another synthesizer to avoid. one of the hottest topics in the, oh my god, why are you buying this keyboard? And this is no offense against any manufacturers. The M Audio Venom has one of the worst reputations of being a clunker. You get it home, it turns off, it shuts off, buttons don't work, keys will flop up and stick up. So that was one of those things. Even though you'll see it at a really good price secondhand, those people, I don't know how they got it, but they were probably not informed about it. It's like that horrible nightmare. I can't believe it. I woke up and there was the M Audio Venom where my Jupiter 8 used to be, because somebody told me that the Venom was awesome, so I went and sold it and got my Venom instead. Anyways, you don't want that to happen. Anyways, the M Audio Venom has had such a bad rap on it, and if you read any blog, that it just falls apart. So avoid one of those even at cheap costs. Okay, nowadays, here's another one. This is a recent situation that happened to me. I bought a used XP60, Roland XP60, and it was having some audio issues. You go about a quarter up in the volume on, and all of a sudden you start to hear this hiss sound. And I bet you there's a couple of people going, oh God, I know what this is. This my XP is doing that. Well, the XP50 line, which was like came out at the same time that the XP80 came out. Now, for some reason, the XP80s aren't suffering this audio output. If you've had that problem with your XP80, please put the comments below that it happens to you. But so far, I know that the 50s and the 60s are very dangerous now to purchase because their audio output issues. I'm going to get into this topic over here, this JP8000 that I have here. It has a very similar situation. So the XP50s, they're having LCD display issues, they're having output, actually motherboards crashing and just failing on them. Obviously some parts inside of the die, the whole thing cascades and dies. And then of course there's issues with the outputs. So look out, those are wonderful Roland workstations. If you can repair them and get them back to life, because I know there's also repair videos on that on YouTube, so you might be able to get your XP back. And because I love those are wonderful workstations. And when I got my last XP60 and I heard the hiss come, it was like every note that you play, it's fine until you lift off your key and you listen. And you hear this faint kind of at the end of every sound that you have. All right. Here's another one. This is one of my favorite keyboards in the world. This is my JP8000. This thing I wrote some really good like ambient new age work, and it's just a fabulous synth to have for dance, for anything, for sound design. Probably one of the best virtual analog engines in the industry when this came out. What, 97, 96, 97. This was one of the most incredible synthesizers, and I'm not going to get rid of this. The issue that it has with it is a very common issue. You can find this on eBay. The outputs, again, it's another one of these output issues. Either the left or the right speaker will go out first. So there's got to be, it's on the motherboard. There's a certain area, and I'll put the links down below. There are repairs that you can do to fix your audio issues that you're having with the JP8000 if you are having one. And if you have one, you probably have already encountered this problem, because there is no perfect working JP8000 that I know of unless it's been worked on. Okay, so if you're going shopping for one of these and you see one for $600 or $800 saying it's perfect condition, buy it now. I would not believe that at all unless they say something like this has been taken to a technician and has been repaired, and here's the proof, because they have almost every single one of these that I've ever known has started to develop this issue. There's a couple of capacitors that need to be changed out, and from what I heard there's like 26 capacitors on that same board that you might as well just take them all out and replace them anyways at the same time, turning your JP8000 to a perfectly good sounding working synth, a perfect synth to use for the next 30 years. So I'm going to hold on to this because I plan on having this its audio repaired because I know in a few years this thing's going to start shooting up in price once everybody starts repairing them, like the Juno and the 6s. Once we can get the right people networked together to get these repaired, then they're going to start shooting up in price again, because the JP8000 is a wonderful synth. I absolutely cannot say anything bad except for that issue. The other thing about this type of keyboard and other keyboards of this generation, like from the 90s, that started to use more sliders and stuff like that, there's something called ghosting, and that is something you should be totally aware of. Anything with a slider should be covered. Okay, any keyboard like this should be covered. Like every day I have my keyboards covered. There's not one time that they're not covered. dust gets into this here, and it builds up on these little contacts, and the slider just doesn't know it. A slight vibration will trigger a false sensor, and all of a sudden you'll see like a little star, an edit little feature show up on your LCD screen showing that you made an edit. And you're like, I didn't change anything. Why does that sound strange now? Well, because you're not covering your damn gear. No, literally, you can detox it, or and clean up your sliders. I highly recommend you get them. If you have any type of synth that has sliders, cover them, and if anything, clean them as much as you can. If you are not the type to do that, the cover stuff, which is ridiculous. But I have a lot of friends, honestly, and you know who you are, who don't cover their gear. They legitimately just let it collect dust through the weeks, through the months, through the years. And I don't understand that. I mean, that's anything can get in there and start building up, and you'll have ghosting effects. It also happens in knobs too. So cover your gear. It's just being common sense. Another synth to start worrying about right now on the secondhand market is the X6, X7, and X8. From what I've seen, a lot of the screens are starting to die out. You're going to start seeing the dim screens in the secondhand market. Some people can use those. Maybe they're going to get a really good deal on or use Phantom X6 or 7 or 8 with the dim screen, but that is a repair job that you'll do yourself, or somebody else is going to have to do too, because yeah, that's a lot of work. All right. Another synth in the second-hand market that's starting to show scary stuff is the Korg Triton series. I'm a humongous fan of the Triton series, of any Korg workstation. But specifically the Triton Classic is starting, and I don't think the Studio, but they're all in the same line. So I'd say the Triton Classic, the Triton Studio, the Triton Extreme. Not so much on the LE or the TRs. I have not heard or felt or experienced anything like this. But there are certain things with the Triton keybed. Either there's detuning or just shifting of timbers. People reporting things like all of a sudden my combos are all out of whack. They're not working right. They're like my friend Dwayne Briggs, a phenomenal ambient new age musician. He has a wonderful collection of gear, and one of his Tritons was having the same situation that mine was. Where it was literally like if you were shifting a timbre, the whole octave, like up one key range or something. I was like, what's going on with this? So, and then there was bender issues that were sending false signals. That was a trouble. So that's something else to think about. So. Also, touch screens are all yellow and icky now and orange. You give them 20 minutes to power up, they start getting more blue. So if you see pictures of them orange or yellow, or urine color, ew, don't get too afraid, because after a while they do warm up. But eventually you're probably gonna have to replace the touch screen. The touch screens on the Korg M3 are all starting to go bad, in the sense that they're starting to slip in a way that no matter how you calibrate it, it's still going to be off no matter what. So you most likely, your best bet is to take the damn thing and get it replaced, buy one on eBay, and just put it in yourself, because most likely it is an actual easy repair. I've done it myself. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely perfect for what I need to do. It worked perfect. So as long as you're aware that the M3 is like that, you just buy an extra one. If you're going to buy a used or second-hand Korg M3, just buy an extra screen. They're cheap. They were actually quite affordable, and with the instructions, it was very easy to install. As a matter of fact, there's some wonderful tutorials on how to install that on YouTube. So check that out if you have a M3 that needs repair. Unfortunately, here's the next thing, the next Korg workstation I have to talk about that is having some issues secondhand, so look out for this. The Korg Kronos is a wonderful, wonderful workstation to work with, but there are issues nowadays with the touch screens. Those also are going to need to be replaced, and they're large. I've not seen too many secondhand touch screens for sale or that work, or if they have any replacement ones for sale. So that's something to think about. And remember, there's a lot of startup failures that are starting to show up online that I'm starting to see. A lot of Korg Kronosos just not finishing their booting. That's very, very scary, because you're running on an entire synthesizer that works on an operation system, not on like an analog synthesizer, which is doing with its parts. When you're running on a synth like that, or relying on a synth like that, it doesn't load up, it can't finish its job, it can't work. So it's like having a computer that just freezes, and so that's something to think about. If you're going to spend $3,400 on the Kronos 2, remember that. Read about that operation systems, motherboard failures, touchscreen issues. Please investigate that before you buy it. I've personally had a lot of Korg workstations, and every single one of them has worked fine for me. The only real issues that I've ever seriously had was the detuning issue on the Korg Triton keybeds. I've experienced that myself, and the touchscreen issues being either fading out or needing to be replaced, calibration issues not completely lining up. So I'm just blessed that I hadn't had like a full crash in a Kronos. That would break my heart. I would freak out if I'd spent that much money. Another thing is the first batches of the classics. For those who have the Kronos 73 or 88, do not ship them. They are prone to having serious errors with the keybed, alignment issues. The newer Kronos series, the two that have been released, supposedly have fixed that with the RH3 keybeds. But if you have a Kronos 1 Classic, it might be damaged easily through shipping. So highly recommend, do not ship that. And if you're going to buy one local and load it in your car yourself and take it home and load it in yourself to make sure you don't disalign those keys. Because if those things get disaligned, there's a very good chance you're going to have to take it into a repair shop, and they're going to cost you a lot of money on that kind of stuff. So, all right, another one that I'd like to pull out so people are aware of, the Korg Prophecy is one of my favorite of the VA physical modeling synthesizers, analog, virtual, and digital. It was just awesome. Absolutely one of the best synths that come out of the 1995 era. The Moss generation. I'm a huge fan of the Z1 and of course the Prophecy. The very common thing about those is the main outputs usually go bad, but the headphones are perfectly fine. Whoa, what's up with that? So yes, it's a very workable synth. It's very, very cool. I haven't had a lot of reports or anything like that of the screens going bad. The keys are fine. I mean, dude, they are reliable. They're awesome. The only problem is almost every single Prophecy I've ever purchased secondhand, I used the headphone jack that was in the front of the keyboard and never was able to use the main outs. Don't know. Maybe they just didn't put the time onto that. All right. Waldorf XT or XTK. Now that is one of the best synthesizers ever designed, just period. I have to say that's one of the best synthesizers like ever. I would have to say that when you're dealing with the 90s gear, you're talking about possibilities of issues with the knobs, sliders, any of these kind of keyboards from that generation. Be unaware that they can have ghosting issues and alignment issues, that they might just need to be detoxed, cleaned, whatnot. But the XT or XTK is notorious for two things. One, the knobs kind of being jumpy or ghosting. Number two, the caps on the knobs themselves come off. And you'll see a bunch of second-hand Waldorf gear, older, like the Polymorph, that have the knob caps gone. So the Waldorf XTK is a wonderful synthesizer to have, but remember, there could be jumpy knobs. That's the only other thing is I haven't heard about any output issues with that, and I haven't heard anything about any operation system crashes. Those are very reliable synths. Just make sure the knobs are clean, okay? All right, here is a synth I've never had before, but I've always wanted one. One of the rarest keyboards in the market, in the secondhand market, is the Sonic Fismo. That thing creates some of the craziest ambient sounds I've ever heard, and every time I have close enough money to get one, they sell, and I never get a chance to get it. So you guys who have it, I love you. Mwah. You have probably had this question run to the buyer that you were trying to get, the seller that you were trying to get the Fismo from. Did you replace the transformer? Was it repaired? One of the problems with the Fismos is it had issues with the power supplies, and if you had yours fixed or repaired, then your Fismo should last you a very, very, very long time. And those are very rare and very unique synths to have. So if you find one, make sure, ask the seller, hey, is the power transformer or the power supply been changed or fixed? So that would save you a lot of time and money. Okay, Roland MC909 Groove Box, one of the best samplers and groove machines ever. designed. The only things I can say, pad issues, I've always had somebody who says, oh, I've had the pads repaired or replaced, the entire bed for the pads replaced. That's a common issue. Not too much on the slider issues or the knob issues on that, but there's always a repair screen. Like, the screen needs to be repaired, the screen needs to be repaired. Dude, but they're such phenomenal workstation / groovebox / samplers with dual D-beams. So yeah, if you can find one, buy one and just try to see if there's parts around to buy just in case, so you can get those replaced, because eventually those things are going to be worth a lot more money in the future. A perfectly working MC909 groovebox. Okay, Axis Virus Indigo. My favorite virtual analog synthesizer, period. Okay. They are awesome. I had the red back edition, which was very rare, with a little black widow spider on it. That was wicked. But I still prefer the blue LEDs. I'm Rik, you know, I love blue LEDs. But I'll be honest with you, the motherboards had been reported starting to die out in a lot of Axis Virus Indigos, especially the Indigo 1, because it was the first generation. And it was like I remember checking out a YouTube page. One of my favorite YouTubers has the Virus C Indigo, and which is the Indigo 2, and he has the Indigo 1. He had the motherboard just flat out died. It would not power on, nothing. So it was very scary. But I'm starting to see a lot of that in blogs and on different channels. Also, another thing that has been reported about Axis Virus Indigos, or just early viruses in general, are the LCD screens need to be replaced. And of course, jumping knobs, that's another thing, because the Virus line was such a well-used and popular synth out in the market. It was in every studio, so everybody had an Axis Virus, so everybody was going like this. So you can expect some issues with the knobs. So Virus A, Virus B, not so much on the C's, but I've always had possible little issues with the A or B's, but those are so cool regardless. So the Indigo, beautiful, one of the most aesthetically perfect synthesizers I've ever played. Built like a tank. Unfortunately, nowadays, at this time, 2019, motherboards could be dying, and some people were having issues trying to get those repaired. Okay? Okay, here's a wonderful keyboard, the JD800. Everybody who knows what the JD800 is, what it sounds like, what it does, wants one, because they are absolutely perfect keyboards in so many ways. The only issues that I've dealt with myself is the red glue issue, which is the weights underneath the keys start to come down, or if, God forbid, you had it shipped from Texas somewhere, from the heat to another place, all those little weights on the under keys start to fall out and get ugly, and it's just a big mess to repair, and you do not want to have to deal with that. So if you can find a JD800 with the keys repaired or perfectly, you know, in perfect condition, get it. Sliders, those had little things inside that when you slide it, it would protect the actual holes where the sliders are, so it was pretty cool for that. A very well built synth. Very awesome sound. If you can get one, just make sure that the keys are working fine, and if they've had the red glue issue to deal with, and or if they've had any issues with sliders or the dual display screens that they have, because sometimes you'll need to repair those too. All right, let's see. We're getting close to the very end, but I want you guys to remember, if there's any synths or anything that you know about, put it in the comments below, because we need to network this so people who are shopping for gear know what to avoid, and or to save the extra money to get that repaired, just in case, because there's always a risk in anything secondhand anyways in general. The sequential circuits multi-track, you wonder why I haven't had a video of one of those. So I've done a bunch of other sequential synthesizers. They also have transformer issues, power supply issues. Sometimes those have already died out and you can't get repairs, replacement parts for it. From what I've seen, you might be able to find something through Sequential, Dave Smith, through their networking, and if there is something to get those replaced, because if you read about the multi-track issues and their power transformer issues, you would probably avoid it like the plague. And if you see one for sale, ask. What's wrong with it? Did you have any problems with the power supply? How does it boot? Does it turn on fine? How long does it stay on? Those kind of questions. Simple questions, but they should be something direct, because if somebody's trying to sell you a piece of junk, pounce on it before you buy it. I mean, you guys, no. So, highly recommend the Sequential Circuit 6-track and the Split 8 were great for secondhand sequentials for the lower budget. And then when you want to go up, of course, start with the Prophet 600, because that or the Pro 1 of those two. Make sure you try to get that Geekly, Geekly, whatever that is, that upgrade on it, because that turns your Prophet 600 into something awesome. That's a totally different topic. And one of the last synths that I'm going to bring up right now, that secondhand that is always reported something's wrong, maybe something's wrong, Arturia Mini Brute keys, kind of, you hit too hard on them, they're very sensitive, and they can disalign the key bed, so you'll see keys going like this, like an old vintage ARP that used to have like keys going like this. So the Arturia Mini Brute, I haven't heard too much about the Micro Brute having issues with the keys. I've had a Micro Brute for a very short time, so I didn't have any issues with that. It was beautiful. And my Mini Brute that I had was actually in really good condition. Its keys were perfectly aligned, and I never bang it. But a keyboard like that anyways is so small that I want to play from a bigger keyboard, you know, to get better, you know, octave jumps and stuff like that. So not worried about that. So, and it's like, you know, I always joke about like 32 or 37 keys, 25 keys, you know, I mean, hey, if I'm going to get a controller, the minimum I'm going to get, it should be 49 keys, because if you're going to be, okay, I'm totally digressing. Anyways, just trying to say that the Mini Brute has issues with the key bed, and some of the keys can disalign or completely pop up. Even in transport. I've heard in shipping, there's pictures of it when I send it from Nebraska to you in Florida, and then when you get it in Florida, you open the box, the keys are like, oh, hi, my name's Phyllis. So, look out. All right, if you want, I'm going to try to pull these out here. I have the 2 holy Bibles that I've been trying to share with all of my friends in the synth world. Analog Synthesizers by Mr. Mark Jenkins. Has an incredible collection of analog synthesizers and whatnot. But at the very back, he's got synthesizers to warn you about in the secondhand market. And I would like to just read to you some of the ones that have some service problems if you're a vintage person and you're looking for vintage synthesizers. They say to avoid the ARP Avatar, because it was just an issue. The ARP Quadra, because it had the different engines. Sometimes they had a lot of problems with those engines working with them. So that was something. The Memory Moog, that was supposed to have like voicing issues that would completely die out really quick. Let's see, the PPG Wave 2.3 had power supply issues, as things would go on, the power off and your motherboard's fried. And the Yamaha CS80, the classic Blade Runner synthesizer. My God, that thing had to have 2 technicians below it at all times. Almost every human being that I've ever talked to who owned a CS80 or worked with one in the studio, you know, they had to have somebody get parts and bring it in and replace it. Nick Rhodes of Duran Duran had a few Jupiter 8s, because they'd always have like some part inside that crashed or died, so they go and take the find what part it was that was obviously needed to be repaired. They gut it out of the other Jupiter, drop it into the one that was the one that they had the presets and the sounds that they were using. Hopefully, you know, you save everything, but oh my God, can you imagine having the budget? This, I don't have a lot of money, okay? I'll be honest with you, I'm happy with what I work with. Can you imagine having 4 or 5 Jupiter 8s and being able to go, okay, well, I just need that board out of there, go ahead and yank it out and put it in this one. Anyways, I love you guys, this is amazing. Second book I want to show you is Vintage Synthesizers by Mark Vale. This is awesome. This book, again, is super bitchin'. Are there naughty pictures in here? No, I'm joking, that's not naughty pictures. Really, really cool books. I highly recommend them. Vintage synthesizers and analog synthesizers, it's just a no-brainer. This should be inside your library. This should be something that you are on the toilet reading. I mean, you're going to be reading those Sweetwater gear ad catalogs, you might as well have something even more detailed to read while you're on it. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And please support the SynthgodXXX channel by purchasing the reverb collections that I've made. I have 16 different sample collections of various synthesizers. Of course, there's a lot of different collections on the Reverb site that they've been promoting, but if you see the pictures in my ads, they show you which ones I've made. They're official Onyxian Sound Design. That's my sound design company. So please help support this channel by buying those awesome, affordable, under $20 sample collections, over 2 gigs each, stereo. Almost every single one of the collections are in full stereo. The first 3 collections have mono and stereo, which are the Moog, Roland, and Dave Smith collections. Those all have various synthesizers. Then after that, I've got specific synthesizers. So if you need sample collections for your Prophet X or your Deluge or your Kronos, I have got a wonderful collection of all of these wonderful synths that you see on my channel available to you to use in your tracks. And they're wonderful, thick, 20-second long samples each. I'm not talking no snippety-dippet types. There's no samples like that for me. They're all anyways, check out my little collections down below in my channel. Please support the site by supporting yourself by getting really kick-ass samples for your next track and for your, for the future. I think that sampling is an incredible technology, and I'm going to be doing a whole episode on that, on just the incredible power of sampling technology and what it can do for a musician, a sound designer, and just a person who is just an audiophile. So I love you guys so much. Please support the channel. Buy some of those cool sample packs. That helps me get more gear, so I don't have to sacrifice my gear to get new videos for you guys. If you guys have any personal questions or stuff, you can go to the Facebook page and look up Rik Marston. There's 2 Rik Marstons. I don't know who this other guy is, but you can see my picture, you know it's me. Go ahead and just send me a friend request. Let's talk. Because if I am not answering your comments or anything like that, they're probably way older videos. I will get to those. So if you need to really talk or ask me questions, drop them in these comments below. Find me on Facebook, Rik Marston. Very simple. You'll see my face. Just send me a friend request. Let me know who you are, that you see me on YouTube. And let's get this communication going, because if there's questions you have about any used keyboard that you're thinking about buying, a new keyboard that or a synthesizer that you're interested, or sampler, let me know. I'm SynthgodXXX, but I'm also SampleGod_XXX in a way, because half of my entire life has been working with samplers, and I haven't even touched that except for showing you what sample collections I made. I have a humongous story to tell you about sampling and how it really can change your life. So anyways, please like, share, and subscribe. I will see you guys very soon. Bless you. May your energies be strong and renewed. Bye.